Hello and welcome to this video where I'll be giving you some tips and tricks for EA Sports WRC. Whether you're an experienced player or a beginner, we've got some really cool details here to get stuck into. So for this video, the first video, we're going to take a look at some of the more basic things that we're going to need to be looking at to have the advantage we need when driving in rally. First of all, before we even go into the game, we're going to take a look at our Thrustmaster control panel and check a few details out and show you what I have. First of all, degrees rotation, I set that to 540 degrees. There's something in the game called soft lock, which we'll get to a bit later, but essentially if you have, let's say you set this to 1080 degrees, that means that the game will then use all of the range of the wheel and automatically set it based on what that car has in real life. So if it's a modern car, that will probably be more like 540, which I overwrite through here. But it means something like a historic rally car, like a Mark II Escort, a Ford, it will automatically increase to like 900 and something. So it's just to keep in mind, but I like to do it at 540 because that's what a lot of modern rally cars are. But of course, some people use even less in esports, so it's whatever feels comfortable to you, and we won't get into the debate on what's right or wrong. It should be what you prefer and makes you feel comfortable. In the settings tab, I have the overall percentage of my T818 to 50%. This is a direct drive base, so it's quite strong. But I do have it in the extreme mode, so it's really detailed. And then for the damper settings, I have them set quite low. So if we go into the game, we're just going to take a look at a couple of things. We're in the main menu of EA Sports WRC, and we're going to take a look at the options and extras to fine-tune a couple of details or just highlight how you might be able to use some of the options to assist you in your experience. So the options and extras can be accessed from the main menu, from other parts of the game when you're in gameplay. But essentially what we can do there, within options and extras, we've got a lot of things to look at. There's quite a lot of different sections, and you got things like audio and the on-screen display, OSD, graphics. But what we're going to take a look at is a few aspects that can really help you in your experience. We go into game preferences. We've got a lot of different options again. Things like the camera field of view can be really good for giving you a different sensation of speed, or maybe you want to improve how the view is from the cockpit and you can see the corners more clearly. Have a bit of a look with these options and play around to see what suits you best. Then we have camera shake. If you don't like how much the shake of the camera is, you can also reduce this as well. Another important thing is the co-driver call timing. We've got a lot of different options. You can see latest, later, normal, earlier, and earliest. I think if you're a really fast driver, you're probably going to want to have it on earliest. But with earliest, the calls become very bunched up and stacked together, and it can be sometimes difficult to keep it all in your head. So if you have that feeling, you can also go for something a bit lower, like earlier or normal. And then co-driver call type. This is something a bit new for this game, in the fact that we have a simplified pace note system. So instead of the normal system, which is quite complex and maybe not easy to understand for new players, you can try the simplified option, which has terms like medium right and hard left. So it's quite descriptive, and it also cuts back on a lot of detail, so it's really easy to digest, to go into your brain and just listen and drive, so it's not too much. But the normal system, that's like traditional co-driver system with the 6 fastest pace notes, and it's what you would see real drivers use, so that's what I tend to use, and if you're more experienced, then that's what you can use too. And if we go back, and the other thing that we're going to look at is assists. We're going to quickly go through them. Transmission, here we've got lots of different options. As you see, we've got automatic, which controls the gearbox completely by the game, so you don't need to worry about changing gears. That can be really advantage for new players. Semi-automatic is like the best of both worlds, so it's still an automatic gearbox by default, but you can override it with your controls. So if you've got your sequential or your paddles, it means if you want to shift down a gear, you can force it to do that, but the general solution is going to still be that the game does the changes for you. Then manual sequential. This is when you control the gearbox completely by yourself, and you do it in a sequential format, so you can use your shifter, go up, 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 and then down, 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 or the paddles, you go up to go up the gears on the right paddle, and then down the gears on the left paddle. Each time you click it, it will do 1 gear up or 1 gear down, and this is probably one of the most popular options used for more advanced players. Manual H pattern is a bit more extreme. It's for H pattern gearboxes, which are really cool, and yeah, if you want to do that with a historic rally car to make it a really authentic experience, it can be quite fun. And then we got manual auto select, which is again like the best of both worlds, and it's really cool because what it will do, if you have a H pattern and also a sequential in terms of devices, you can have them both connected at the same time, and then the game automatically swaps between them based on what the in-game car uses in real life. So if you want to drive a historic Group B car, it will go to the H pattern, but then if you go to a WRC car, it will manually or automatically, sorry, it will go automatically to the sequential system again, which is really, really nice. Clutch control, you can basically have a automatic clutch which does everything for you. You don't need to worry about the clutch. You have a manual override, which is again allows you to take a bit more control of the clutch in places where you might want to build up the engine RPM in like a tight hairpin. You can use it there, but you can't stall the car, so it's not fully manual. And then we have manual, which is you have full control of the clutch. It's like real world driving. When you're on the start line, you need to engage the clutch before you select first gear, and if you spin the car and come to a complete stop, the engine will stall unless you engage the clutch, so it's quite advanced. In terms of assists, these can be really important for intermediate to new players who are getting used to rally games for the first time, and these are just really good for having a bit more control of the car until you get more familiar with everything, and then you can start to reduce each one. So you might start with 5, and then you can go all the way down to 2, and then when you're like getting really more like a professional driver and you feel really confident, you can go to completely off at 0. And each one of these has 5 different options. So ABS is stops you from locking the wheels when you brake hard. So it's just like a normal road car system. And yeah, whenever you brake and you have some locking, this will prevent it. Off throttle braking, this is really cool because it's when you're on the throttle, it does nothing, but when you come off the throttle, it will start to apply a certain amount of brake pressure. So it can be really good when you come down like steep downhill sections and you come off the throttle and you need some control of the car, it will automatically start to add some braking to keep the balance of the car, so you don't have like too much weight transfer or anything like that. So again, it can be quite a cool assist to use if you're new to rally. Throttle limiter is quite a new assist that we have for this game. It basically limits the amount of power that you get from the car when you have full throttle. So yeah, it stops you from, let's say, jumping into a Group B car which has like 500 horsepower and going full throttle and then going completely off the road on the first corner. It just limits that opportunity for you to not be in control, so it just keeps everything a bit more within a certain window. Traction control is the drive axle, so when you're on throttle and you have your driven wheels, when they try to have some slip because you've got so much power going through the wheels, this will automatically cut in to bring it cuts the throttle essentially to stop that wheel spin because of too much power. So it can be, let's say, rear-wheel drive cars where you go on the throttle and you start to get some wheel spin at the rear axle and it can be hard to control. This will limit the amount of slip that you have at the tires and keep you in control. And even front-wheel drive cars, it can be very important too, but for someone who's really experienced, you're likely going to have it set to off. Stability control, this is about the body or weight transfer and body movement of the car. Whenever this system is turned on, if it detects that the car is, moving a lot of mass, it will automatically start to stabilize the car through different inputs, let's say the steering, the braking and everything. So when you have this turned on, it will detect when you're maybe about to lose control and intervene. And time control braking, this is when you go across the finish line and you're driving towards the stop marshal. When you get close to the stop marshal control, instead of going completely past them, this will apply the brakes to make sure that you stop beside the marshal post. And then a couple of other things, you can have automatic wipers on, but then if you want to have complete control of the wipers, you can set this to off. And when you get like a dirty windscreen, if you have this off, it won't clear the windscreen. You need to do it with the button you have behind. Start line assist is important to know about, because if you have this set to off when you're on the start line, you have full control of the car whenever you engage the handbrake. So if you let go of the handbrake, you will have a jump start penalty, and that can be really frustrating. So it's really cool though to be in control of the car on the start line, that the game is not in full control of the car in that moment, and you feel like I'm a real rally driver. So yeah, you can set this to off and it can be really engaging and authentic, but you need to remember that you could jump the start and have some penalty. We go into controls now, is really important in my opinion. You'll see all of your devices which are connected to your computer or your console, and you can go into each one of them, and on the right side you can see the input that's currently being done. If we select on the steering wheel, it's important to go through the calibration. So this is just letting the game know what degrees of rotation that you currently are using, and also that your brake and throttle and clutch are all working perfectly fine, and it calibrates them so that they have the proper range. And really easy to do. That's took us literally 10 seconds, so it's worth to give that a go. And then the other thing that we want to talk about is here we can go to edit device, and this is the bindings screen where you can go in and change the the bind for each control. So let's say we wanted to change the headlights, we could click there and click on bind, and then I could bind it to a different button. And also it will tell you if you have already binded something and that there's 2 different inputs, you'll have this little warning. All you need to do then is unbind. Advance, you've got steering linearity. This just means that you can change the attitude of the steering in game. If you wanted it to be more quick at the beginning and then slower at the end of the steering range, you can do that here, but I tend to just leave it standard. Soft lock, this is what we talked about previously. You can have this on and it will basically allow the game to decide what your degrees of rotation is. The more historic cars can have up to 900 or more degrees of rotation. So if you have in your desktop control panel it's set to something really high, then the game will just automatically change it for you based on the car. And the most important of this all is the vibration and force feedback menu. Here we have a lot of different options to change the experience that we have from the wheel. So self-aligned torque, that's when you're steering into the corner or out of a corner. You have, let's say, counter steer. It's how the wheel comes back to the center again, how much you have to fight against the wheel or how much the wheel does it for you. So you can play around with this to get the correct feeling. Wheel friction, that's the general friction of the wheel again in any sort of movements. So if you feel like it's too strong to move the wheel and that it's fighting a lot with you, you can make this a little bit less. Tire friction is how the tires feel on the ground, how much friction that is again through the steering wheel. So you can mess around with these settings, feel what's correct for you. Suspension is an important one. If you have this set too high, it can be really strong when you go over anything like a jump and land, or you hit a bump in the road. It can send a vibration through the whole wheel, and it can make it difficult to have like really precise steering. So I tend to have this a little bit lower, so I can have more precision on the wheel, so I can really do some quick movements from right to left, which is very important in rally. And if this is too aggressive, then it will be more difficult to have control of the car. Tire slip, this is something I try to keep higher. It's when you go into a corner and you start to have some slip on the front wheels, mostly on the steering. When you have some slip, you'll feel the difference in the steering wheel, and it's really important in rally to know whenever you start to slide on the tires. So this is really good to have a little bit higher. Engine is just the vibration from the engine RPM when you go on the throttle, and also things like gear shifts if you want to feel those and make them more detailed. Collision is a bit more similar to suspension. It's if you hit something, let's say you hit a rock in the road or you hit a bank, you'll have a strong response through the force feedback in the wheel. And if it's too strong, again, it will stop you being able to do some fast left to right movements that you need to do and be really agile with the steering wheel in rally. So yeah, it's important not to have it too high. The final thing I'm going to say for the first video is that it's really important to have a look at the rally school if you haven't already. The rally school is really cool because each lesson brings you from the most basic driving techniques that you need to know as a rally driver all the way up to the more advanced ones such as handbrake turns. And this has a really good dialogue VO at the beginning from the instructor to let you know what you need to do with the car on the brakes, how you use the weight transfer in a lot of different situations. And in total there are 12 lessons, and you can do each lesson on all 3 surfaces that we're going to touch upon in our next video. So yeah, You can do it on gravel, you can do it on asphalt, and also on snow. And it's just really important that you go to rally school, you learn through all of these lessons. Some are, well, they get more difficult as it goes along. And as you can see, there's a list of objectives that you need to meet, and the game and the instructor are analysing your performance, and at the end you'll have your evaluation to let you know if you've passed and what areas that you need to work on. So make sure to hit the rally school. Let me know if you've completed the full rally school. And yeah, that's it for the first video. We're going to go on to another video very soon about surfaces, so look out for it. And yeah, thanks for watching.